what's the best way, or how do we deliver our intimate feelings to our partner without having them feel defensive or shutting down?
So there's some important steps to take before delivering a message to our partners, our beloveds, our loved ones, when we're in maybe a potentially triggered state, or we're wanting to share something intimate with them, without them maybe taking defense against what we're saying. One of the first things is accountability, and I speak about that a lot. There's an importance to being accountable for what we're feeling, for what we're needing, and to be clear on that before going into that conversation. The other step is having compassion, and how that would be shown to a loved one is appreciating them. Like going into a conversation, expressing some form of appreciation. What do you appreciate about them? What do you appreciate about them in this moment? Say, for example, the intimate feelings you're about to share with them have to do maybe with a disagreement that you had, and you're sharing maybe your opinion or your feelings. Rather than rush into, you did this to me, acknowledge. It might be, wow, like, I can imagine how difficult this situation was to you, or that you have a lot on your plate. And I can only imagine what that feels like for you. So when we approach something with acknowledging first, compassionately, caring for someone else, for what they might be experiencing in the moment, it opens the door to what I call as an invitation for them wanting to listen more to you. When I can be accountable and unpack what I'm feeling and needing before that conversation, or at least what I'm feeling, I can enter into that conversation and say, wow, I'm noticing this is what I'm feeling in my body. And this is what came up for me during this situation. But in no way in that conversation was I saying, you did this to me. So you're going to be more empowered to have information to come to that conversation with, and to help alleviate your loved one or partner taking defense. The other piece around that is to realize that you are not responsible for how your partner receives your feelings. If you come to the table prepared, accountable, compassionate, acknowledging them for who they are or something you appreciate about them, and you are opening that conversation for a compassionate, again, very clear conversation that can then move on to expressing what they're feeling, what you're needing, what they're needing. And with both people being accountable, in that moment, the defensiveness would subside. However, if you find you're stepping to the plate and you're applying all of those steps, and your partner is maybe feeling a bit fiery and agitated and unable to hear you, in that moment, this is where I would invite you to set a boundary. What is your boundary around having flared up conversations? I have a boundary that I will only have a conversation, a clear conversation, if any one of us is agitated or intensely projecting a lot of anger or blame. In that moment, I would call a pause. And so you might use words like yellow light for a pause, red light for a stop. I know I have on occasion been like, I understand what you're saying, I hear you, and I'm recognizing I'm feeling a little overwhelmed emotionally, I could be crying when I say this, not necessarily this calm, but I can be accountable enough to say, I'm noticing I'm feeling agitated and I need to pause and take a break. Can we come back to this? If the other person is agitated and it's coming out verbally and vocally to you, a boundary might be, I really want to have this conversation with you, and I really want to hear what you have to say, but I can't hear you right now because of the tone and the yelling. I'm noticing it's just really uncomfortable for me. So I'd like to pause our conversation and let's come back to this when we're both in a calm state. And you might right then and there set a time. Be like, let's have this conversation tomorrow, and then both of you take your own space. And I would suggest taking at least 24 hours to have that space and to trust that in that space, both of you will connect with yourself and find that clarity and come back together.